Okay, so we're going to take a look at some developing YouTube drama in this video. And interestingly, it's a drama that has developed between two members of the so-called intellectual dark web. Basically, Gad Saad was blocked on Twitter by Sam Harris. And so Gad Saad got on Twitter and tweeted this screenshot to show that Sam Harris had blocked him, and he says, "Oh my, was it because of this clip?" So we're going to take a look at the clip in which Gad Saad criticizes Sam Harris on Gad Saad's podcast, and I think his criticism is really legitimate. It's something I've thought for a while about Sam Harris, that he has TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. He sees Trump as an existential threat which needs to be removed by any means necessary. And Gad Saad called him out on that. He called him out on the way he presents himself as this sort of Zen, Buddhist, whatever, into meditation and yoga and all that kind of thing, and psychedelics. I've got to say, I've always found him a bit condescending. I agreed with everything Gad said here. So let's take a look at the clip.
Hi everybody, this is Gad Saad. I was just heading out to work on my forthcoming book, but was alerted to a recent appearance by Sam Harris on Triggernometry, and people were obviously tagging me and alerting me because of some of the positions he was taking regarding Trump, etc. And so I decided to put out a Twitter thread, which, since some of you may not follow me on social media, I thought I would read it here for you. So here we go. Historically, I have always liked and respected Sam Harris. I have no personal beef with him. We probably agree on 95% of issues. However, his Trump hatred is off-putting because it perfectly captures what happens to a parasitized mind infected with blind hatred. Rationality dies. Temperance dies. Proportionality dies. Logic dies. Reason dies. I explained to Sam when I appeared on his show how perfectly rational human beings could apply specific decision rules in choosing to vote for Trump. Over the years, I have repeatedly explained that whilst Trump has countless personal faults that are truly grotesque, in a democracy founded on deontological and non-violable first principles, we can never set these aside for any reason. Tyrants have utilized the quote existential urgency argument to engage in horrifying acts throughout history in the exact manner that Sam is willing to set aside foundational principles because he believes that Trump is a quote unique once-in-a-generation existential danger. It turned out that Trump did not cause a nuclear holocaust. He did not tank the economy. He did not destroy democracy. He did not institute martial law. Any logical and rational person would conclude that despite Trump's endless personality flaws, he instituted policies that both Sam and me would agree with. Yet Sam's pathological hatred of Trump causes him to lose any commitment to the principles that have allowed our societies to flourish. No, you don't set aside the presumption of innocence principle because Kavanaugh is innately evil, quote. No, you don't support the deplatforming of Trump from Twitter because he is, quote, innately evil. No, you don't support the mainstream media silencing of the Hunter Biden story because, quote, it's too dangerous to allow Trump to win a second term. I am astonished that someone of Sam's intellectual and moral abilities could have sunk to such a depraved level of consequentialism. To reiterate, I like Sam and I respect him, but I love truth more. I love deontological virtues more. Have a good day, everybody.
So as Gad Saad said there, he was responding to a clip of Sam Harris on the Triggernometry podcast, which we're going to have a look at in a minute, where Sam Harris was speaking about what he believed was in the realms of the acceptable for the press and for the Democratic Party to do in order to defeat Donald Trump. Before we look at the clip, though, we're going to look at Sam Harris's response to the backlash from the clip on Twitter. So on Twitter, he released a thread explaining how he had sort of misspoken, but he didn't really apologize. He kind of tries to explain himself a little bit and then seems to get a bit pissy with a few other people who responded to him and blocked them as well. So I think there's an element of regret. I think he regrets the wording, the way he said things perhaps, but what he meant by what he said seemed pretty unequivocal to me. As you'll see when we look at the clip in a minute, he said some very stupid stuff. And I don't think this is the first time. I've heard him say a lot of stupid stuff over the last 5-6 years about Donald Trump. He seems to see him as this monster, this horseman of the apocalypse that's going to bring about nuclear war, it's going to crash the economy. It all seems very irrational. And it's very ironic that he sort of is the poster boy for rationality, logical thinking, Zen, yoga, psychedelics, deep thinking. He's got that paused way of expressing himself. Seems so rational. But when somebody talks to him in that same condescending way, it seems that he can't quite handle the criticism, which is kind of hilarious to watch. So here's the thread. There is a podcast clip circulating that seems to be confusing many people about my views on Trump, which is understandable because I wasn't speaking very clearly. So, for what it's worth, here is what I was trying to say. I was essentially arguing for a principle of self-defense, where there is a continuum of proportionate force that is appropriate and necessary to use. I've always viewed Trump as a very dangerous person to elect as president of a fake university, let alone the US, and when he became a sitting president who would not commit to a peaceful transfer of power, I viewed him as more dangerous still. However, I've never been under any illusion that he is Orange Hitler. On the podcast, I was speaking narrowly about the wisdom and propriety of ignoring the Hunter Biden laptop story until the election. I've always thought that this was a very hard call, ethically and journalistically. But given what happened with the Anthony Weiner laptop in the previous election, I think it was probably the right call. Nothing I said on that podcast was meant to suggest that the Democrats would have been right to commit election fraud or take other illegal measures to deny Trump the presidency, nor do I think that they did that. Now, you can make up your own minds when we look at the clip, but a lot of people were calling him out in the comments under this thread. Avi Yemini said, "You were speaking very, very clearly and we all understood, but nice try." And so Sam Harris blocked Avi Yemini, very salty. Anyway, so here's the clip. Make your own minds up. For me, he comes across as a nutcase, someone who is clearly deranged when it comes to Trump. Like Don Quixote, when you talk about arms, he's lost his mind on this one. I'm sorry. He's not as zen as he likes to think he is.
I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared. Right? It's like, there's nothing. First of all, it's Hunter Biden, right? It's not Joe Biden. But even if whatever scope of Joe Biden's corruption is, like if we could just go down that rabbit hole endlessly and understand that he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China. It is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in.
Is it though?
It's like a firefly to the sun, right? I mean, like there's just it doesn't even stack up against Trump University, right? Trump University as a story is worse than anything that could be in Hunter Biden's laptop, in my view, right?
Yeah, that face you pull when you detect bullshit.
Now that doesn't answer the people who say it's still completely unfair to not have looked at the laptop in a timely way and to have shut down the New York Post's Twitter account. Like that's just a conspiracy. That's a left-wing conspiracy to deny the presidency to Donald Trump. Absolutely, it was. Absolutely, right? But I think it was warranted.
What?
That's a left-wing conspiracy to deny the presidency to Donald Trump. Absolutely it was. Absolutely. Right. But I think it was warranted. Right. And again, it's a coin toss as to whether or not
Sam, I'm sorry.
that particular piece
I'm really sorry. I was the one that said we should move on, but you've just said something I really struggle with there, which is
the kids in the basement?
Fuck the kids in the basement. I'm interested in democracy. You're saying you are content with a left-wing conspiracy to prevent somebody being democratically re-elected as president.
Well, no, I'm content. Well, but the thing is, it's just not left-wing.
That's literally what you said. And does it matter?
Well, no, I'm content. Well, but the thing is, it's just not left-wing, right? So Liz Cheney is not left-wing, right? Liz Cheney is doing everything in her power.
You're content with a conspiracy to prevent somebody being democratically elected.
But there's nothing conspiracy. It's not.
You could do so.
It was a conspiracy out in the open. But it doesn't matter if it was. It doesn't matter what part's conspiracy, what part's out in the open. I mean, I think it's like.
So I guess this is what he meant in the thread where he said he wasn't speaking clearly. I think he stopped speaking clearly when he realised how deranged he sounded, right? And then he's trying to backtrack but doesn't know how to. You know, none of us perfect, Sam. No matter how well you speak in public, none of us perfect. You've got your biases too. Doesn't matter how many psychedelics you take.
If people get together and talk about what should we do about this phenomenon, you know, if it's like if there was an asteroid hurtling toward Earth, and we got in a room together with all of our friends and had a conversation about what we could do to deflect its course, right? Is that a conspiracy? You know, like
Sam Harris has been talking about logical thinking and mindfulness and all of these things for well over a decade now, probably 20 years. And it's funny, that's one of the most illogical, irrational things I've ever heard. It's a complete logical fallacy. It's a false analogy, comparing Donald Trump to a comet hurtling towards Earth. And by the way, very unoriginal, because that's exactly what Don't Look Up is about, isn't it? That Netflix film with Leonardo DiCaprio is basically just poking fun at conservatives. I think the film Don't Look Up is actually an interesting tangent to go off on at this point, because it actually sums up pretty well where we are as a culture, because I think both sides enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the film because I thought it was quite funny. But I think a lot of people watched it as sort of a caricature of what we're actually going through, that people who vote for Trump, people who don't necessarily subscribe to all of the right-on views about climate change and COVID and all of these sorts of things, are just like ignorant fools that refuse to look up at a comet hurtling towards Earth. They actually believe that having Trump as the president was similar or as dangerous as a comet hurtling towards Earth, right? That's deranged. It's a deranged way of thinking. Gad Saad has summed it up perfectly. He's absolutely right. Sam Harris has lost his mind on this one topic. And yeah, he could be right about a load of other things. He's not right about this. It's insane. Some of the things he said were insane. He thinks he wouldn't have cared if Hunter Biden had the rotting corpses of children in his basement. That wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Joe Biden is hiding corpses of children in his son's basement. That wouldn't matter. No, that wouldn't matter. It's, Donald Trump's way worse. Way worse. It's a firefly to the sun. That's deranged. He has TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. He cannot see past his hatred for Donald Trump. He's lost his mind. On this one topic, he cannot speak logically. He can't have a calm, rational conversation about Donald Trump, clearly. And this is not the only example. I've seen him on lots of occasions talk about Trump, and it's always the same. He describes it as a complete disaster for the planet to have him as president. Clearly, things are going much better with Joe Biden, aren't they? The economy, geopolitical issues, wars, problems in supply chains and energy. That's all going fandabidozy. Inflation. But Trump is a comet hurtling towards Earth. Okay, Sam.